The morning had begun like any ordinary day for Judge Angela Freeman. The sun had barely climbed over the horizon, casting a soft golden light across the quiet suburban streets she traveled every day on her way to work. Birds chirped in the trees lining the avenues, and the occasional early riser walked their dogs or jogged past neatly trimmed lawns. Angela, dressed in her professional attire, drove calmly, her mind focused on the morning court session ahead. She had spent the previous night reviewing complex cases and had been up late preparing her notes. Her car, a sleek black sedan, glided smoothly along the road as she mentally reviewed her schedule for the day. Nothing about the day had suggested the unexpected and frightening turn her morning would soon take. Angela had served as a federal judge for many years. Her reputation for fairness, intelligence, and composure had earned her respect among colleagues and community members alike. She was known for her ability to handle pressure without losing her calm, a skill that had been honed over years of managing tense courtroom situations. She prided herself on her dedication to justice and the careful attention she paid to every detail of the cases that came before her. But nothing in her professional life could have prepared her for what was about to happen just minutes away from her home. As she approached a familiar intersection, flashing red and blue lights suddenly appeared in her rearview mirror. Angela instinctively slowed down, pulling over to the side of the road. A police vehicle, its siren silent but its lights flashing, signaled her to stop. She remained calm, placing her hands lightly on the steering wheel, and waited for the officers to approach. She assumed it was a routine traffic stop, perhaps for a minor infraction like speeding or a broken tail light. She had been pulled over before for minor traffic issues, and each time she had handled it with the same level of professionalism she displayed in the courtroom. Two officers approached her vehicle, their expressions serious. Angela rolled down her window and greeted them politely, her voice steady and composed. She explained where she had been going and answered their initial questions with clarity. The officers appeared tense, their movements slightly hurried, but Angela did not let their demeanor shake her. She had encountered stress and tension in her work every day, and she relied on her training and calm judgment to navigate it. She hoped this stop would be as routine as it seemed at first. Suddenly, the situation escalated in a way Angela could not have anticipated. One of the officers leaned closer to her car and, without clear warning, reacted as though Angela had made a threatening movement. The tension in the air became almost tangible, thickening with each passing second. Angela tried to speak, to explain that she meant no harm and was simply complying with their instructions. But before she could fully articulate her words, she heard the sharp crack of gunfire. 3 shots rang out, echoing off the nearby buildings and startling nearby residents. The sound was deafening, and for a moment, Angela's world seemed to freeze. Her heart raced, but she remained composed, following every safety protocol she had learned in emergency preparedness courses. She pressed herself down into her seat as best she could, instinctively trying to protect herself while keeping her hands visible and stationary. The realization that her life was being threatened struck her with a chilling clarity. In those moments, she was no longer simply a judge presiding over cases, she was a human being facing danger in its rawest form. The officers, shaken by the rapid turn of events, paused and reassessed the situation. Angela could see the confusion and fear in their eyes as well. Bystanders who had witnessed the scene immediately reacted. Some ran to safety, while others recorded the incident on their phones, capturing every 10 seconds. The neighborhood, usually calm and serene in the morning hours, had become a scene of panic and uncertainty. Angela, maintaining her composure, reached for her phone and called 911. She reported the incident calmly, giving clear details about what had happened, the number of shots fired, and her exact location. Despite the fear coursing through her, her mind worked efficiently, ensuring that the emergency services were alerted and that her account of events was accurate and precise. While waiting for the police backup and emergency responders to arrive, Angela reflected on the surreal nature of what was happening. She had always understood the risks that public officials might face, but experiencing such a situation firsthand was entirely different. Her thoughts raced between practical concerns for her immediate safety and deeper reflections about justice and accountability. She reminded herself that she needed to stay calm, not only for her safety but to ensure that she could accurately relay the facts to the authorities. Minutes felt like hours as Angela waited in her vehicle. She could hear voices outside, muffled by the distance and the closed windows, and she noticed the flashing lights reflecting on nearby houses. The tension in the air was thick, a mixture of fear, urgency, and disbelief. Angela knew that every moment counted. She focused on her breathing, a technique she had learned in moments of stress, to keep her mind clear and avoid panic. Her training in handling stressful situations, though primarily legal and professional in nature, proved invaluable in keeping her grounded during the crisis. Eventually, additional units arrived, securing the area and ensuring that no further harm could come to anyone. The officers involved in the shooting stepped back, allowing emergency responders and investigators to take over. Angela was carefully guided out of her vehicle, still composed despite the adrenaline coursing through her body. Her professionalism shone even in the face of danger. She remained polite, cooperative, and clear in her communication, setting an example of how to handle a life-threatening situation with dignity and calmness. As she was escorted to safety, Angela couldn't help but notice the reactions of the neighbors and bystanders. Faces filled with shock, fear, and concern mirrored the intensity of what she had experienced. The incident would soon capture national attention, sparking conversations about policing, race, and the vulnerability of even the most respected public figures. Angela, fully aware of the significance of the moment, began mentally preparing herself for the next steps, reporting the incident, cooperating with investigators, and protecting herself while ensuring that justice was served. In those first critical moments after the shooting, Angela realized that her life had irrevocably changed. The quiet routine of her morning had been shattered, replaced by a situation that demanded resilience, clarity, and courage. She had faced danger head-on, maintaining composure under circumstances that could have overwhelmed anyone. The incident was a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of remaining vigilant, no matter one's position or status. Through it all, Angela's thoughts also turned to her family, particularly her husband, General Marcus Freeman. She knew he would want to be involved immediately, both to ensure her safety and to understand the full scope of what had happened. She also understood that his position would allow him to act swiftly and effectively, making a potentially dangerous situation more manageable. Angela's faith in his judgment and professionalism provided a small measure of comfort amid the chaos. The morning that had begun like any ordinary day had transformed into an extraordinary ordeal. Angela Freeman, a federal judge known for her composure and intellect, had faced danger directly and navigated it with grace. The shots fired, the fear, and the tension were all part of an event that would leave a lasting impact, not only on her but on the entire community. Her calm and precise actions ensured that emergency responders were alerted, witnesses were engaged, and the foundation for accountability was laid. The incident was a powerful reminder of the fragility of safety and the strength of human resilience in the face of sudden danger. As she waited for the situation to stabilize, Angela's mind remained sharp and focused. She knew that this was only the beginning of a long process, one that would involve investigations, public scrutiny, and the support of her family and colleagues. But in that moment, sitting in her car with the adrenaline slowly ebbing, she allowed herself a quiet determination. She had survived the immediate danger, and she was prepared to face whatever came next with the same courage and professionalism that had defined her career. As soon as General Marcus Freeman received the call, his day, which had begun as a routine schedule of briefings and strategic planning at the Pentagon, changed instantly. Marcus, a highly respected general known for his calm demeanor and sharp decision-making, had been in the middle of reviewing military communications when his aide rushed in with urgent news. The words pierced the room like a sudden thunderclap. "Sir, it's Angela." She's been involved in a shooting incident. Officers fired at her car. The gravity of the situation hit him immediately. Marcus was a man trained to handle crises of national importance, from strategic operations to emergency responses. Yet, this was different. The woman at the center of the incident was not just a civilian or a public figure, she was his wife. His mind raced through every detail he could remember about her day, her route, and the potential dangers she could have faced. Within seconds, he shifted from routine professional focus to crisis mode, analyzing the situation with precision, balancing personal concern with the weight of responsibility his role demanded. Marcus understood that time was critical. Every moment could mean the difference between safety and further danger. He didn't allow panic to take over. Instead, he tapped into the same calm decisiveness that had guided him through countless military operations. He immediately contacted his trusted network of Pentagon officers and senior staff, explaining the situation succinctly yet firmly. "We have a critical civilian incident," he said. "It involves a federal judge and potential use of lethal force by local police. I need units mobilized for observation and support immediately. We must assess the situation and prevent escalation." Within moments, Marcus's orders were being executed. Military units were dispatched to monitor key areas near the incident site. Surveillance teams coordinated with local law enforcement, ensuring that officers on the ground were aware of heightened security measures. Marcus carefully avoided disclosing his personal connection to the situation at first, understanding that transparency and professionalism were essential to maintaining credibility and avoiding unnecessary complications. His priority was to ensure safety first, clarity second. As his teams mobilized, Marcus's mind replayed the details he knew about the incident. He considered the possible scenarios that could unfold if tensions escalated. The thought of his wife, a calm and composed judge, suddenly facing danger in real life, triggered a strong emotional response, but he never let it cloud his judgment. Instead, he channeled that concern into planning and executing a precise response. Every decision was deliberate: which units to deploy, what communication channels to use, how to minimize the risk of further confrontation, and how to ensure that the public and the press remained calm until accurate information could be released. Marcus also immediately reached out to a small, trusted circle of senior officials who could provide real-time updates from the field. These were colleagues who understood the critical balance between swift action and careful coordination. Through secure channels, Marcus received detailed reports from his units stationed near the incident. Surveillance feeds showed bystanders reacting, police officers cautiously assessing the scene, and emergency responders moving in to secure the area. Marcus observed everything, processing information quickly, while remaining focused on a single goal: ensuring his wife's safety without causing unnecessary alarm or conflict. While coordinating the tactical response, Marcus's thoughts returned to Angela. He remembered her composure during the incident, the calm voice she had used when calling 911, the precision in her words, and her ability to provide clear details under extreme stress. Her training as a federal judge had given her the skills to manage high-pressure situations, and he knew that had helped prevent immediate harm. Yet, he also knew that danger had been real and that the officers involved were still processing the chaotic events. He couldn't risk leaving things uncertain. Every measure he took had to be both immediate and strategic. Minutes passed like hours as the general worked tirelessly. He coordinated with local authorities to establish safe zones, ensured that emergency medical personnel were ready to respond if needed, and monitored the traffic and civilian flow around the incident site. He even considered potential secondary risks, such as curious onlookers or misinformed media personnel interfering with emergency response efforts. Marcus Freeman's ability to foresee complications was one of the many reasons he had earned his reputation for effective crisis management. He was prepared for every scenario, thinking several steps ahead while keeping his composure intact. During this time, Marcus also remained in contact with Pentagon communication teams to maintain situational awareness at the national level. He knew that incidents like these, involving law enforcement and high-profile civilians, could quickly escalate into news stories with widespread attention. It was crucial that all information released publicly was accurate, minimizing the potential for panic or misinformation. While deeply concerned for Angela personally, Marcus also considered the broader implications of the event. Every decision had multiple layers of consequence, and he approached each with meticulous care. As the military units established observation posts around the area, Marcus directed them to document everything. They were instructed to monitor the police response, track any suspicious movements, and maintain a secure perimeter that would prevent further incidents. He balanced assertiveness with discretion, knowing that overt military presence could create unnecessary tension. His goal was not confrontation but protection. Every action was calculated to ensure safety while upholding public trust. At the same time, Marcus Freeman's personal emotions remained tightly controlled, hidden behind layers of professionalism. The thought of Angela sitting in her car, surrounded by flashing lights and panicked bystanders, sent a ripple of fear through him. Yet, he never allowed panic to affect his decision-making. Instead, he reflected on the strength and intelligence of his wife, knowing she could manage herself in a crisis. His confidence in her, combined with his strategic planning, created a powerful combination of reassurance and preparedness. As updates continued to arrive, Marcus learned that Angela had remained unharmed but shaken. Her quick thinking, adherence to protocol, and calm demeanor had prevented the situation from becoming even more dangerous. He allowed himself a brief moment of relief, but he did not let it distract him from the work at hand. The incident was far from over, and ensuring that law enforcement actions were accountable and safe remained his top priority. During this tense period, Marcus also made preparations for communication with higher authorities if needed. He drafted messages for Pentagon leadership, emphasizing the need for measured action and collaboration with local police, while remaining ready to intervene if the situation escalated further. His strategic mind considered every angle: public perception, legal ramifications, potential threats, and the safety of all civilians in the area. His approach reflected decades of experience in handling complex, high-stakes scenarios with calm precision. The general also coordinated discreetly with trusted colleagues who had legal expertise. He understood that the combination of law, military oversight, and public safety would be critical in navigating the aftermath. While the immediate focus was ensuring Angela's safety, Marcus was already thinking ahead to how the incident would be addressed officially, ensuring that transparency and accountability were maintained. His foresight and planning prevented missteps that could have complicated an already delicate situation. Meanwhile, Angela, still inside her vehicle, noticed additional units arriving. Her anxiety eased slightly as she realized the coordinated response was taking shape. She felt a sense of reassurance knowing that Marcus was actively monitoring and controlling the situation, using his skills to protect her without causing unnecessary alarm or escalation. Though she remained composed publicly, inside she was grateful for the calm, calculated presence her husband brought to the situation. As time passed, the immediate danger began to stabilize. Local police officers were reassessing their actions, emergency responders were completing their assessments, and the surrounding area was secured. Marcus Freeman, however, did not relax. He remained vigilant, analyzing every report, questioning every detail, and ensuring that no loose ends remained. His dedication to precision and safety reflected the dual nature of his role as both a husband and a military leader. Personal concern and professional responsibility intertwined seamlessly in his approach. By the end of the morning, Marcus had successfully orchestrated a protective perimeter, ensured accurate reporting, and coordinated with local authorities to prevent further incidents. The initial threat had been contained, and his wife was safe. Yet, the experience left a lasting impression on him, highlighting the unpredictable nature of life and the importance of preparedness. He reflected on the necessity of remaining calm under pressure, trusting expertise, and combining personal concern with professional duty to navigate high-stakes situations successfully. In those intense minutes, General Marcus Freeman demonstrated the qualities that had earned him respect throughout his career: decisiveness, calmness, foresight, and unwavering dedication. His response not only ensured the immediate safety of Angela Freeman but also prevented potential chaos in the community. The situation, while deeply personal, had been handled with professionalism, strategic planning, and courage, reflecting a balance that few could achieve under such intense pressure. The morning's events were a stark reminder that life can change in an instant, and that preparedness, composure, and strategic thinking are essential in the face of danger. Marcus Freeman, observing the situation unfold from multiple vantage points, managed to protect his wife, safeguard the public, and maintain control over a potentially volatile scenario. His leadership, both personal and professional, would serve as a model for how to respond to crises with intelligence, clarity, and courage. After the initial chaos had settled, Angela Freeman stepped out of her vehicle with a composed but serious expression. The adrenaline of the shooting was still coursing through her veins, but she had trained herself, both in life and through her work as a federal judge, to respond to crises with clarity and calm. She was surrounded by flashing lights, uniformed officers, and the low hum of chatter from her husband's coordinated units stationed nearby. Despite the tension, she remained focused, determined not to allow fear or anger to dictate her actions. The first priority was to ensure a complete and accurate account of what had happened. Angela knew that the stakes were high not just for herself personally, but for the community, the law enforcement officers involved, and the integrity of the legal system. She calmly approached the senior officer in charge of the scene, a lieutenant who seemed both nervous and uncertain about the events that had just unfolded. With clear, precise language, she explained that she would need to document everything accurately for official purposes, emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability. The lieutenant, realizing the gravity of her position, stepped back and allowed her the space to begin her observations. Angela carefully walked around her vehicle, noting the positions of the bullet holes, the trajectory of the rounds, and any physical evidence that could help reconstruct the incident. She asked detailed questions about the sequence of events, the officers involved, and the communications that had taken place just before the shooting. Each question was measured, deliberate, and professional, designed to gather information without escalating tensions further. Meanwhile, General Marcus Freeman remained at a discreet distance, observing the unfolding investigation. He had complete confidence in his wife's abilities, but as a military leader, he also understood the importance of ensuring the perimeter remained secure and that local law enforcement followed proper procedures. He communicated with his units via secure channels, monitoring the situation in real time. Units stationed at strategic points around the area provided updates on civilian movement, police activity, and potential safety concerns. Marcus ensured that everyone remained calm, aware, and ready to respond if necessary. As Angela continued her examination, she realized that the incident could not be approached in the same way as a typical civilian case. The fact that she had been targeted, whether intentionally or by mistake, added a layer of complexity. She considered the legal implications carefully, thinking several steps ahead. This was not just about personal safety or accountability for the officers involved, it was about setting a precedent, protecting the rule of law, and ensuring that justice was served without bias or undue influence. Her approach was methodical, reflecting her deep understanding of both human behavior and legal frameworks. Local detectives arrived shortly after, bringing with them notebooks, cameras, and evidence collection kits. They were clearly aware that this was a high-profile incident, and some of them seemed nervous in the presence of both Angela and the general's units. Angela, sensing their uncertainty, spoke with a tone that was firm but encouraging. "We need accurate documentation," she said. "Every detail matters. This is not about blame, it's about truth and accountability. If we do this correctly, We prevent further mistakes and uphold the integrity of the system. Her words carried authority, yet they were not accusatory. They were designed to foster cooperation and clarity. The investigation quickly revealed several critical details. Officers' statements indicated that confusion and miscommunication had played a significant role in the shooting. One officer admitted that he had seen a silhouette and assumed it was a threat without confirming what he was seeing. Another admitted that stress and sudden movement had contributed to a hasty decision. Angela noted each statement carefully, comparing them against physical evidence and security footage from nearby cameras. Her analysis was precise, logical, and unbiased, qualities that had earned her respect throughout her career. While Angela meticulously reconstructed the sequence of events, Marcus continued to coordinate with both local authorities and his Pentagon contacts. He ensured that military observation units provided additional footage and insight into the scene, which could assist in verifying timelines and actions. The combination of Angela's legal expertise and Marcus's tactical oversight created a comprehensive approach to understanding the incident. It was a rare alignment of legal and military precision, designed to prevent misunderstandings and maintain order. As the hours passed, tension remained high. Local officers were aware that their actions were under scrutiny, both legally and publicly. Some showed signs of guilt or nervousness, while others appeared defensive. Angela handled each interaction with professionalism, ensuring that questions were clear, and that officers felt the process was fair. She understood the human element of the situation, that fear, stress, and split-second decisions had contributed to the incident, but she also made it clear that accountability could not be compromised. The presence of the general's units had a subtle but important effect. While they remained discreet, their strategic positioning ensured that the area was secure, that evidence was protected, and that no external threats could interfere with the investigation. Their presence also served as a reminder of the broader implications of the incident. Everyone involved understood that this was not just a local matter, it had national attention and consequences. Marcus carefully balanced authority and discretion, never overstepping into direct interference but maintaining a protective oversight that allowed Angela and the local investigators to do their work efficiently. Angela also considered the public perception of the incident. She knew that news of a shooting involving a federal judge would spread rapidly and could inflame public opinion. She made detailed notes about the sequence of events, emphasizing facts over assumptions, and prepared to provide a clear, concise report once the investigation was complete. Her goal was to ensure that justice was not only done but seen to be done. Every word, every observation, every documented piece of evidence had to withstand scrutiny. As the investigation continued, Angela discovered small but important discrepancies in the officers' accounts. Timing differences, variations in distance estimation, and conflicting recollections of who had said what, all of these needed careful evaluation. She calmly cross-referenced these details with video footage, physical evidence, and statements from bystanders. Her approach was meticulous, showing patience and attention to detail that prevented rushed judgments or misinterpretations. Despite the intense focus required for the investigation, Angela also remained aware of her own physical and emotional state. She had endured a traumatic event, and yet she did not allow personal fear to compromise her professional judgment. Her training, her experience on the bench, and her natural resilience gave her the strength to maintain composure under extreme pressure. Observers could see her calm demeanor, but beneath it was a keen, analytical mind working tirelessly to ensure that truth and justice were preserved. By mid-afternoon, the investigation had reached a point where clear preliminary findings could be shared. Angela and the lead detectives had reconstructed the sequence of events with reasonable certainty. The shooting had been triggered by a combination of miscommunication, stress-induced judgment errors, and unfortunate timing. No evidence suggested malicious intent, but there was a clear need for accountability, retraining, and procedural review. Angela prepared her recommendations, focusing on systemic improvements rather than individual blame. Her goal was to prevent similar incidents in the future while maintaining fairness for all parties involved. Meanwhile, Marcus Freeman ensured that his units continued their observational duties, remaining alert to any new developments or potential threats. He had complete confidence in Angela's handling of the situation, but he also understood that the military's role in support and protection remained critical until the investigation was fully concluded. His strategic mindset allowed him to anticipate potential complications, ensuring that the scene remained secure and that all participants adhered to proper protocols. As the day progressed, Angela and Marcus finally had a moment to reflect on the events. They exchanged a brief but meaningful glance and unspoken acknowledgement of the intensity they had both endured. Angela's calm professionalism and Marcus's strategic oversight had created a system of protection, accountability, and clarity in the face of chaos. It was a partnership that combined intellect, experience, and unwavering commitment to justice and safety. By evening, preliminary reports were submitted to the appropriate authorities. Local law enforcement had been cooperative, recognizing both Angela's authority and the strategic support provided by Marcus's units. The evidence had been thoroughly documented, statements had been collected, and the scene had been secured. Angela felt a sense of cautious relief. She had navigated a dangerous, high-pressure situation without compromising her principles or safety. Marcus, observing from a distance, shared in that relief, knowing that his rapid response and coordination had prevented further complications. As they left the scene, both Angela and Marcus understood that the events of the day would have lasting implications. The investigation had been thorough, precise, and fair, and it had highlighted the importance of calm, clear thinking in times of extreme stress. For Angela, it reinforced her belief in methodical legal processes and the necessity of accountability. For Marcus, it reaffirmed the value of strategic planning, preparedness, and leadership in both personal and professional crises. Together, they had managed to turn a potentially catastrophic incident into a controlled, constructive resolution. The next morning, the city awoke to a storm of news. The shooting involving Judge Angela Freeman had dominated the headlines across every major news outlet. For many people, the idea that a federal judge had been targeted, even accidentally, by police officers was shocking. News cameras lined the streets, reporters crowded outside her home, and social media exploded with speculation, analysis, and strong opinions. Angela knew that the situation had moved beyond a simple legal matter. It had become a public event with far-reaching consequences. Despite the media frenzy, Angela remained composed. She had faced pressure before, both on the bench and in her personal life, but this was different. The stakes were higher, the attention more intense, and the potential for misunderstanding enormous. She understood the importance of controlling the narrative without allowing emotion to dominate her actions. With Marcus by her side, she prepared a carefully worded statement for the press. The goal was simple: convey facts, reinforce the importance of due process, and prevent hysteria from spreading. Marcus had been actively coordinating with Pentagon public affairs officers to ensure that security protocols remained in place. They had assessed potential risks, including the possibility of protests or demonstrations near their home or at the courthouse. Military units remained discreetly positioned at key locations, ready to respond if needed, but always in a way that respected civilian law enforcement authority. Marcus understood the delicate balance, protecting his family and maintaining order without escalating tension. His strategic planning was methodical, precise, and quiet, just the way he liked it. Angela began her day by meeting with investigators, both from the local police department and federal oversight agencies. The investigators had completed their initial assessments of the scene, and now it was time to review their findings. Angela read each report carefully, comparing them with the physical evidence and statements she had documented herself. She asked pointed questions, challenging assumptions, and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Her mind worked like a finely tuned machine, dissecting every element, identifying inconsistencies, and considering all possible implications. One report highlighted the confusion among officers during the shooting. Some had misread the situation entirely, while others had acted on split-second instincts without full awareness. Angela's experience as a judge allowed her to see the human side of these errors without excusing them. She understood that fear, stress, and miscommunication could lead to mistakes, but she also knew that accountability was essential. There had to be consequences, retraining, and systemic improvements to prevent such incidents from ever happening again. As the investigation progressed, Angela also considered the legal implications for the officers involved. She was aware that some of them feared public backlash and potential disciplinary action. Angela ensured that investigators approached each officer with fairness and transparency. She wanted them to understand that the goal was truth and justice, not public shaming. At the same time, she recognized that the public expected answers, and transparency would be critical in maintaining confidence in law enforcement and the justice system. Meanwhile, the community began to react. Local leaders, civil rights organizations, and prominent figures in the city issued statements urging calm and demanding accountability. Angela read each statement carefully, noting the concerns, frustrations, and hopes expressed by community members. She understood that her actions, and the outcomes of the investigation, would influence public trust in the legal system. Every step she took had to be deliberate, thoughtful, and in alignment with the principles she had sworn to uphold. Amid this intensity, Marcus remained a steady presence. He provided logistical and strategic advice, ensuring that their family's safety and privacy were respected. He also reminded Angela to take brief moments for herself to breathe, to process, and to maintain her emotional balance. Even as a high-ranking general, Marcus knew that leadership included care for those closest to you, and he approached this with the same discipline and attentiveness that defined his military career. Angela also had to address the media directly. Carefully, she walked to the designated area outside her home, flanked by security personnel but maintaining an approachable demeanor. Reporters called out questions, some respectful, others more aggressive, seeking soundbites or sensational angles. Angela's response was measured, professional, and clear. She emphasized the importance of facts over assumptions, of law over panic, and of unity over division. Her calm presence and thoughtful words impressed many, even those who had come expecting controversy. At the courthouse, colleagues and staff expressed concern and support. Some officers involved in the shooting were also present for briefings, providing statements and clarifications. Angela maintained a professional distance, ensuring that the investigation remained unbiased while also reassuring those involved that the process would be fair. She explained the importance of truth and accountability, stressing that every action had consequences but that justice would always be grounded in fairness. The investigation also drew attention from higher authorities. Federal oversight committees, legal associations, and law enforcement advisory boards began reviewing the preliminary reports. Angela was invited to participate in briefings, providing her insight on procedural errors, potential reforms, and legal implications. She recognized the opportunity to influence policy and practice, not just for this incident but for future cases across the country. Her focus remained on solutions that were practical, just, and sustainable. As the day progressed, Angela also had to manage her own family's response. Her children were understandably anxious, aware that their mother had been involved in a dangerous situation. Marcus took the lead in providing comfort and reassurance, explaining the security measures in place and emphasizing that Angela had handled the situation with exceptional skill and professionalism. Angela herself spoke with her children briefly, modeling calm and confidence while reinforcing the importance of responsibility and preparation in the face of danger. In parallel, legal experts began analyzing the incident publicly, offering commentary on the implications for law enforcement accountability, civilian oversight, and judicial protection. Angela monitored these discussions carefully, noting where public understanding aligned with reality and where misconceptions could lead to unnecessary tension or fear. She made a mental note to provide further clarity through official statements and educational outreach, recognizing that communication was as important as investigation in maintaining public trust. By late afternoon, preliminary findings were ready to be shared with the public and key stakeholders. Angela prepared a structured report that summarized the events, highlighted procedural errors, and proposed specific reforms. The report was comprehensive, transparent, and grounded in evidence. It avoided sensationalism, focusing instead on actionable recommendations and clear explanations. Angela knew that her credibility, and the public's trust, depended on presenting the truth without embellishment or personal bias. The report was delivered to the local police department, federal oversight agencies, and relevant civic organizations. Reactions varied. Some officers felt relieved by the clarity and fairness, while others expressed concern over the proposed changes. Community leaders largely welcomed the transparency and the focus on systemic improvements. Angela had succeeded in framing the incident not as a scandal but as a catalyst for meaningful change, demonstrating that accountability and reform could coexist with fairness and respect. Throughout the day, Marcus and Angela coordinated closely. He monitored security concerns, liaised with military contacts, and advised on communication strategy. She focused on legal analysis, public messaging, and procedural recommendations. Together, they represented a unique partnership of professional expertise and personal support. Each relied on the other's strengths, trusting that their combined efforts would ensure both justice and safety. Even as official statements were issued and media coverage continued, Angela remained focused on the next steps. She began drafting guidelines for future interactions between law enforcement and civilians in high-risk situations. She outlined training protocols, communication strategies, and procedural safeguards to prevent misunderstandings or accidents. Her approach was methodical and thorough, reflecting years of experience and a deep commitment to public service. By evening, the immediate crisis had begun to stabilize. Media coverage shifted from sensational headlines to in-depth analysis of the incident and its implications. Public protests, which had been a potential concern, remained peaceful, with many participants citing Angela's calm and professional handling as a model for responsible civic engagement. Local law enforcement and military units continued to monitor the situation, but tensions had eased significantly. Angela and Marcus finally took a quiet moment to reflect on the day. They sat together in their living room, reviewing the reports, analyzing the outcomes, and considering the broader impact of the incident. Angela felt a mixture of relief, pride, and determination. The situation had been dangerous, challenging, and emotionally taxing, but it had also provided an opportunity to effect real change. Marcus shared her sense of accomplishment, emphasizing that their measured, professional responses had prevented further escalation and ensured that justice remained the guiding principle. Before retiring for the night, Angela drafted a personal note to her staff and colleagues, thanking them for their professionalism and support. She emphasized the importance of staying focused, maintaining ethical standards, and continuing to uphold the values of justice and fairness. Marcus reviewed the security protocols for the following days, ensuring that any ongoing public attention would not compromise safety or procedure. Together, they concluded the day with a sense of controlled resolution, knowing that their combined efforts had guided a potentially explosive situation toward order, accountability, and reflection. In the days that followed the shooting incident, the city began to settle into a cautious calm. The initial wave of media attention and public anxiety gradually shifted from panic to scrutiny, analysis, and reflection. Angela Freeman knew that this was the critical moment not only to ensure justice but also to set a precedent for accountability, fairness, and civic trust. She spent long hours reviewing every detail of the ongoing investigation, carefully considering each action, statement, and recommendation. Investigators continued to interview witnesses, officers, and other key personnel involved in the event. Angela's calm, methodical approach had earned her the trust of both investigators and law enforcement personnel. Officers began to speak more openly about the mistakes that had been made, the confusion on the ground, and the split-second decisions that had led to the 3 rounds being fired. Angela listened attentively, asking precise questions to clarify timelines, actions, and motives. She never displayed anger or judgment in these meetings. Instead, she focused on understanding the root causes of the errors and identifying how similar incidents could be prevented in the future. One of the most significant revelations came from a junior officer who had been on the scene. The officer admitted that fear and uncertainty had clouded judgment. The team had misread Angela's movements, assuming a threat where there was none. It was a human error, a tragic combination of miscommunication and instinct, amplified by the high-pressure environment. Angela recognized the honesty of this admission and praised the officer for taking responsibility. She reminded all present that accountability was essential but that constructive lessons were equally important. As the investigation moved forward, legal experts and civil rights organizations weighed in. Angela had been careful from the start to maintain transparency, and now that approach paid off. Many of the critiques centered on systemic issues, lack of communication during high-pressure encounters, inadequate training for law enforcement officers in distinguishing threats, and the need for improved protocols when interacting with high-profile civilians. Angela incorporated these concerns into her recommendations, turning a dangerous event into an opportunity for meaningful reform. Angela's husband, Marcus, continued to coordinate security while also supporting his wife emotionally. He had remained vigilant throughout the entire process, ensuring their family's safety while also respecting Angela's independence and professionalism. They held regular discussions, reviewing updates from investigators, planning public communications, and deciding how to respond to questions from officials and the press. Marcus admired Angela's focus and calm under pressure, and Angela appreciated his steady presence and strategic thinking. Together, they navigated a situation that could have overwhelmed any ordinary family. Meanwhile, the public began to respond to Angela's handling of the situation. Citizens expressed appreciation for her composure, her commitment to fairness, and her dedication to justice. Community leaders commended her for turning a frightening event into a learning opportunity for law enforcement and society at large. Media outlets began to shift their focus from sensationalism to constructive dialogue, discussing the broader implications of the incident and potential reforms that could prevent future tragedies. Angela's careful communication had managed to steer public perception toward understanding and accountability rather than anger and division. The officers involved were also held accountable. Internal reviews led to disciplinary actions for procedural errors, mandatory retraining for all personnel, and revisions to standard operating procedures. Angela's input was instrumental in shaping these reforms. She emphasized fairness while insisting that lessons be learned. Her approach demonstrated that accountability did not have to be punitive in a destructive sense but could instead drive improvement and professionalism. This balance was widely praised by colleagues, the public, and even the officers themselves. Angela also turned her attention to long-term reforms. She drafted a series of policy recommendations aimed at improving communication between law enforcement and civilians, particularly in high-risk or high-profile situations. She emphasized training that focused on identifying threats accurately, de-escalating potential conflicts, and respecting civil liberties. Additionally, she proposed protocols for interactions with public figures and officials to ensure clarity, transparency, and fairness. These recommendations were submitted to city officials, law enforcement leadership, and federal oversight bodies for consideration and implementation. As the legal processes concluded, Angela began to reflect on her own journey. She recognized that the shooting incident had tested not only her professional abilities but also her personal resilience. She thought about the fear she had felt in those split seconds, the responsibility she bore as a judge and a public figure, and the importance of staying composed under extreme pressure. She also thought about Marcus and the quiet strength he had provided, the way he had coordinated security, supported her family, and respected her leadership. Together, they had turned a frightening event into a moment of growth and reform. Community engagement continued to grow. Angela organized public forums where citizens could discuss the incident, voice concerns, and contribute ideas for preventing similar events in the future. These forums were productive and respectful, with participants from all walks of life. Angela listened carefully to each speaker, acknowledging valid points and encouraging constructive solutions. Her approach demonstrated that leadership was not only about authority but also about humility, empathy, and collaboration. Angela's professional reputation also grew as a result of her handling of the situation. She was recognized not only for her judicial expertise but also for her leadership, integrity, and ability to manage crises. Invitations to speak at conferences, legal forums, and civic events began to arrive, all seeking her perspective on justice, accountability, and leadership under pressure. Angela accepted selectively, ensuring that her commitments aligned with her values and priorities. She understood that her role as a judge extended beyond the courtroom and into the broader community. Marcus continued to be a source of stability and guidance. While his military responsibilities demanded attention, he also ensured that their family life remained intact. The children were gradually reassured as the crisis subsided, and family routines returned to normal. Marcus and Angela made a conscious effort to maintain balance, understanding that personal well-being was essential to professional effectiveness. Their partnership had strengthened through the ordeal, grounded in mutual respect, trust, and shared values. As weeks turned into months, the city itself began to heal. Law enforcement agencies implemented many of the reforms recommended by Angela, improving communication, training, and accountability measures. Public trust, initially shaken by the shooting, slowly rebuilt as citizens observed the dedication to fairness, transparency, and continuous improvement. Community leaders praised the cooperative efforts between the judiciary, law enforcement, and civic organizations. Angela's calm and strategic handling had set a standard for leadership under crisis. The incident also left a lasting impression on Angela personally. She reflected on the fragility of life, the unpredictability of human behavior, and the importance of preparation, discipline, and empathy. She realized that leadership was tested most severely in moments of danger and uncertainty, and that true leadership combined decisiveness with compassion, authority with humility. Marcus reminded her that the lessons learned were not only for the public but for themselves as a family, an affirmation of values, resilience, and shared purpose. By the time formal proceedings concluded, the city had not only recovered but had also grown stronger. Policies were revised, training improved, and community engagement deepened. Angela Freeman's example inspired others: judges, public officials, law enforcement officers, and citizens alike to approach challenges with integrity, patience, and thoughtful action. The incident became a case study in crisis management, accountability, and the power of calm leadership. In the end, Angela and Marcus could finally breathe a little easier. The danger had passed, justice had been served, and meaningful reforms were in place. They returned to their daily lives, conscious of the fact that vigilance and preparedness were ongoing responsibilities, but reassured by the knowledge that they had navigated a dangerous situation successfully, ethically, and with lasting positive impact. Angela continued her work on the bench with renewed focus and perspective. She approached each case with the awareness that every decision, every interaction, and every word carried weight. Marcus continued his duties in the Pentagon, now with additional insight into the importance of collaboration between military and civilian institutions in times of crisis. Their family grew stronger through the ordeal, grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and an unshakable commitment to justice, fairness, and responsibility. Looking back, Angela Freeman recognized that the shooting incident had been a turning point not just in her career but in the broader community. It had tested the principles she held dear, challenged her resolve, and demanded courage under pressure. Through it all, she had demonstrated that calm, informed, and ethical leadership could transform a potentially devastating event into an opportunity for reform, understanding, and progress. The city, the legal system, and her family emerged stronger, and Angela Freeman's name became synonymous with resilience, fairness, and unwavering commitment to justice.